Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome to our cozy little corner of the internet. I'm Pen and today I'm going to be reading the next few chapters, not sure how many yet, of You're Not Like Them by Luffy Gear 5. I posted a video who knows how long ago, but I'm recording this on the same day I posted my last video, so hopefully I get it up soon. Anyway, hope you guys enjoy and let's get right into this. Chapter 7. Shifting his legs slightly further forwards, Darzai leant against the wall beside him, placing a fresh jug of water on the table beside him. Atsushi had been in and out of consciousness for the past 2 days, in which neither Chuya Okutagawa or himself had progressed much with the case. Worse yet, another child had been kidnapped. Darzai sighed, picking out the small corner of paper in his pocket. The edge was burnt, a logo half cut off by the blackened burn. He turned it over in his hand, thinking back to the car park they'd visited when he'd found it. The logo origin had been easy enough to find. It was a company that ran orphanages. Only there wasn't any orphanages of that company in the area. Well, not running ones. It had taken a bit more searching, but eventually he found one. It was abandoned and was due to be demolished. He tried to visit the place yesterday, but Atsushi's condition had worsened. Now, he was tasked to wait until Chuya and Okutagawa returned from visiting another family. He could only return when they had left. He could only leave when they returned. The brunette sighed again, looking over his subordinate. Come on, Atsushi, get better. He was almost tempted to take him to the hospital, but going there could risk their case, and Darzai knew Atsushi wouldn't be able to take that. He'd even considered getting Yoshino to come, but Yoshino's abilities had its limits. Illnesses were like poisons, and her ability didn't heal them well. Asking Kunakita to take Atsushi back was also out of the question, for the same reason as going to the hospital. Atsushi would only feel guilt, but for his health, it might be the better option. For some reason, neither Chuya or Okutagawa had said anything on the matter, merely accepting the new shifts they had to take to keep an eye on Atsushi. Could the wind stop? Cars? Darzai took in the boy's pale pallor. His shut the fuck up. Oh, I'm a dickhead. Darzai took in the boy's pale pallor, his slight blush to his cheeks and sweatiness to his face. Then, as had happened before, Atsushi opened his eyes. Unlike before, he shot upright, slamming into the floor as he fell, before quickly scrambling away. Darzai stood, looking around the room tensely. It stared back blankly. He frowned, turning to his subordinate. Atsushi-kun? I don't want to, Atsushi shouted. He had his hands gripped to his feet tightly. I don't want to, Atsushi shouted. He had his hands gripped to his feet tightly, nails digging into the flesh. Don't make me do it, please, I can't. Tears spilled down his cheeks as he brushed them away harshly, shaking his head. It hurts. Darzai slowly made his way over, crouching before him. Atsushi, I'm not going to make you do anything. The boy ducked his head, shaking. You're lying. If I don't do it, he will. Who will? The headmaster. Darzai stared at the boy, searching his mind for a way to calm him down. Look, Atsushi. Nail and hammer. What? He had a nail and hammer. The white-haired boy rubbed a thumb over a round scar on either foot. Darzai felt his stomach sink in realization. He'd nailed him to the floor of his cell. You won't leave me alone, will you? Darzai looked up, realizing Atsushi was staring at him. He took a moment to recall his words before shaking his head. No, of course not. He forgot about me down there. I was left alone. I was alone for weeks. I didn't even care about food. I wanted someone to help. Atsushi's voice cracked. But no one saved me. Dazai froze, an ache in his chest. No one saved me. I had Odasaku. Akutagawa had me. Despite everything, Chuya had his brother. But Atsushi? Dazai shifted closer, ignoring the way Atsushi flinched at the movement. Atsushi didn't have anyone. His life was abuse. Atsushi didn't have anyone. His life was abuse, and he only got out of it when he was an adult already. I don't like pain, Dazai-san, Atsushi suddenly said. His voice was rough and hoarse from the dry throat and fever. He didn't seem to notice as he continued. But I don't think I can feel it anymore. I got electrocuted once by Shibuzawa. That hurt. I remember. Dazai nodded. He didn't know what to say to that. He glanced up as the apartment door opened. Chuya and Akutagawa entering. Dazai was quick to quiet them when they went to speak, pointing to Atsushi. The three looked at the boy. Atsushi's gaze had been focused on the wall opposite to him. Atsushi shivered. But no one came. Atsushi blinked his eyes open. He felt hot and clammy, his body weak. He turned to his right, looking around the space. Dazai sat there, Chuya and Akutagawa's voice sounding elsewhere in the room. He swallowed, throat dry. Dazai-san? Dazai-san? Nope, fuck, no, that doesn't sound like Atsushi, fuck. Dazai-san? The brunette looked up at him, eyes curious for a moment as he searched his face before clearing. Atsushi-kun. His voice was surprised, a small smile gracing his face. You're awake. Atsushi stared for a moment before pushing himself upright. His body ached, muscles trembling with the easy movement. Weak. Here, Dazai helped him up, leaving him to rest against the sofa back before handing him a cup of water. Atsushi took it, staring at the rippling surface. The sudden high-pitched ringing sounded from the vents, and Atsushi closed his eyes, his memories resurfacing. He remembered the water flooding his lungs as he tried to breathe, the headmaster pulling on the chains even as he pushed his head into the liquid. He remembered the water flooding his lungs as he tried to breathe, the headmaster pulling at the chains and pushing his head into the liquid even as he blacked out. Atsushi placed the cup down. Through the whole fever, though he could barely remember it, he felt as though he was reliving the orphanage, and the sound of that vent only sounded like screaming in his mind. Dazai watched him closely. You need a drink. I'm fine, Atsushi. Dazai-san. His voice cracked and swallowed. Dazai-san. His voice cracked and he swallowed past it. Please. The brunette looked over to him before sighing. The headmaster? Atsushi tensed. You spoke in your fever. His breath caught and he clenched at the fabric on his trousers. What did I say? Not much, but enough. So, we know some of what happened to you when you were in there. Pathetic, useless, worthless. You deserve to die. Dazai sighed again. Look, Atsushi-kun. There's not much I can say about it all, but we are here to help you now, so let us. Atsushi frowned, holding Dazai's gaze. He shook himself mentally. You don't deserve the help. How's the case been going? Dazai raised an eyebrow, nodding. It's not been progressing very well. We've been going around and meeting families of children taken, but not getting much. We managed to take a look at We also managed to get a look at the evidence of the police took yesterday, but again, there's not much to go on. Atsushi frowned. How long was I out for? 3 days. What? 3 days? Atsushi buried his head into his hands. I wouldn't worry about it, kid. I wouldn't worry about it. It sounded like Snipe. I'm trying to mimic Cheer's voice. I wouldn't worry. That's just a yank. Fuck. Hang on, drink. I wouldn't worry about it, kid. I wouldn't worry about it, kid. The case hadn't progressed whether you were coming or not. That just sounds like a fucking Midwest though. It's South, like not Middle East. I don't know why I'm explaining. I'm cutting this shit out. I wouldn't worry about it, kid. The kid hadn't progressed whether you were coming or not. Glancing up at the redhead, Atsushi watched as Chuya re-handed him the cup of water. He took it, taking a sip. It was surprisingly pleasant, washing away the stale spit in his mouth. His body still felt weak, and he hated how much his arm shook. I need to shower. I have an idea, though, Dalzai piped up. I want to plot on a map where each of their homes are. Why? Akutagawa asked. 'Cause there'll be a pattern there. Chapter 8. Atsushi watched as Darzai completed marking the last location, stepping backwards to look at the map as a whole. The locations were dotted everywhere, some slightly closer together, others further apart. They were distributed randomly too. Atsushi didn't see a pattern at all. He blinked tiredly, yawning into his hand. Maybe it's just me. I don't see a pattern, Chuya commented. Or not. Atsushi looked over the map again. There doesn't even look like it. There doesn't even look to be a cluster. Like if he lived close to an area, he'd take the kids closer to him. Akutagawa reasoned. He gestured to the map, shaking his head. But there isn't a pattern like that. True. That's true, Darzai added. But he stepped forward, frowning. I think that is the pattern. What is? Atsushi asked. The brunette smiled. There not being one. He clicked open his pen again, shifting the ruler around the map. They're scattered quite well, but if you look, he nodded, they're all within approximately 20 meters of each other, so they have around a 10-meter radius. He pointed to one of the dots. This is the home of the most recent kidnapping victim, which is slightly outside of the group, but still within a 20-meter range. Darzai quickly pulled out a compass, drawing out a couple of circles. Atsushi frowned at the marks, narrowing his gaze at an area outside of all the circles, but enclosed by it. Darzai gestured to it. This is the area that hasn't been accounted for. Atsushi nodded. It's outside all 10-meter radii. Atsushi nodded. It's outside all the 10-meter radiuses. He could be there. He shifted his gaze to the dot of the most recent. It was actually positioned slightly outside the other. It was actually positioned slightly outside of the other groups, but only enclosing one other location. It looked like the first place he took to expand his attacks, so why miss the space if there wasn't a reason? We should check it out, Chuya commented. Darzai nodded. I have a few thoughts about where to go. What? Atsushi watched as the brunette plucked something from his pocket. It was a corner of a paper, the long edge blackened with burn. Where did you get that from? He asked. Darzai met his gaze. From the car park. He turned it around, showing them the logo. It's a company that ran orphanages. It has one in that area, but it's abandoned now. Darzai met his gaze. From the car park. He turned around, showing them the logo. It's a company that ran orphanages. It has one in that area, but it's abandoned now. Let's go, then. Akutagawa stood to his feet, Chuya following behind. Atsushi hesitated before realizing Dazai was watching him. He smiled. Dazai-san, I'm better now. I'm not fully recovered, but better. The other two paused, looking back at him. A rush of embarrassment flooded him. Atsushi forced a smile to be more genuine. You can go without me. I'll be fine. Here, I'll wait. Atsushi, Dazai-san. Atsushi nodded. Please? The brunette hesitated but nodded. Just call any one of us if you need anything. I will. Following them to the door, Atsushi smiled as they left, nodding reassuringly as they glanced back. He went to close the door, pausing when a familiar scent wandered into his room. He poked his head outside, looking along the now empty corridor. It must be a remnant from being ill. He shut the door, He shut the door, turning back to the room. He shut the door, turning back into the room. It was quiet now that he was alone, and anxiety filled his chest as he realized the others did not have his protection. Not that they need it. I don't really help much anyway. He sighed, wandering around the small kitchen in the apartment. He sighed, wandering over to the small kitchen in the apartment. He sighed, wandering over the small kitchen and into the... He sighed, wandering over to the small kitchen in the apartment, and collected himself a glass of water. It shook slightly in his grip as he took a sip, and he shoved away any helplessness curled in his chest. They don't need me. They'll be fine. Moving back to the sofa, he sat down, glancing over the map Dazai had plotted. He stared at the gap the others were headed to before the most recent... He stared at the gap the others were headed to before shifting his gaze towards the position of the most recent kidnapping. If he's not there... What if he's not there, in that gap? That's why is his most recent kidnapping so far out? Atsushi stared at the map, frowning. Dazai said there was an abandoned orphanage too, so where did the children go? Plucking his phone from his pocket, Atsushi quickly searched up orphanages in the area. There weren't many, the newest only being a year old. He tapped on it, looking at its location. It zoomed in on a familiar map. It's there, near the abandoned one. He glanced over to the map again. A sudden realization hit him. Orphans don't have families to report they're missing. The headmasters don't care. He stood, glancing at the most recent. It's not that he hasn't covered the area. We missed the child. He felt his breath picking up. It's a trap. Chapter 9. Dazai looked over to the cordoned-off area, the dilapidated building left to decay. There were children playing to his left, barely sparing them a look. He considered them for a moment, not recognizing any of them. I guess he wouldn't let kidnapped children play outside on their own. He glanced at Chuya and Octogawa to his right. Let's head in. Leading the way, Dazai ducked under the tape and slipped through the gap of the temporary fencing. The ground was littered with overgrown weeds, random bits of rubbish joining the mess. Dazai stepped around the small pile, heading up the steps to the building. He glanced at Chuya and Octogawa before kicking the door open. It swung with a bang, the wood shaking upon impact. Stepping through the doorway, Dazai drew his gun, searching the area around him. The inside was relatively untouched. Despite the broken windows and the dust collected on the surfaces and floors, the building was decorated in dark wood, and a yellowish paint on the walls flaking in the corners. Dazai studied the rooms he passed, staring at the floors of any of the Dazai studied the rooms he passed, staring at the floors of any shift. Dazai studied the rooms he passed, staring at the floors for any shift in the dust upon them. So far empty, no signs of anyone. Oi, Dazai. Glancing to his left, Dazai nodded as he joined Chuya, who gestured to a room Octogawa followed close behind, having been searching the rooms to the right. Dazai paused, frowning at the room. It was smaller than the others. Empty bookcases lined the walls, the old brittle page left behind as a remnant of the books they once held. A low table in the center of the A low table sat in the center of the room, and upon it was a small girl. A low table sat central to the room, and upon it was a young girl. She wore a school uniform and was young. He vaguely recognized her as one of the missing children. Glancing around the space for a final time, Dazai stepped into the room. The young girl looked up at him, a smile filling her face at the sight of him. "Are you here to take me back to my mummy, sir?" she asked. Dazai carefully studied her, strolling around the table casually before turning to her. "Nothing else unusual. What's your name?" The girl swung her legs, tucking her hands under them as she watched Octogawa and Chuya follow him into the room. "Hayashi Keiko." "Ah, her. Well, Hayashi-chan," Dazai started. "Your mother's very worried about you." "I know. Will you take me home to her?" The brunette paused, looking over her. "Something's off, but it's not her." "Yes, Hayashi-chan, we will." She smiled at him. But it's okay if you answer a few questions for me?" "Okay," she grinned. Dazai smiled. "How long have you been here?" An hour or so." "An hour? So where have you been before this?" She hesitated, a nervousness coming to her face. "I can't tell you. He told me I'm not allowed to tell you." Chuya frowned. "Who did?" "The man." "Is he here?" Dazai asked. Is he here? Dazai asked. Hayashi shook her head. "He left me here. Said he would come for me." "We would?" Dazai felt his eyes widen. He knew what would come. He looked over at Chuya and Atsushi. He looked over at Chuya and Octogawa. Atsushi. A sudden buzzing filled the room. Dazai flinched before quickly pulling his phone out of his pocket. He picked it up, pulling it to his ear. "Atsushi, Dazai-san, you need to get out of there. It's a trap." "Atsushi, listen. He knows that we're looking for him. He knows we missed one. We missed a child. There's an orphanage near there. They wouldn't have reported a missing child. Dazai-san, it's a trap." Hayashi suddenly started crying. Dazai broke off. Atsushi's questions going unanswered. The young girl wiped at her eyes, pain in her face. Octogawa stepped closer to her, frowning. "Hayashi-chan, what's the matter?" The girl sobbed. "It hurts." "What hurts?" The girl looked up at him before lifting her top to show her abdomen. Instead of her chest beneath, a thin layer of wiring wrapped around her, a small stain of blood on her side, and on the wiring, a blinking countline flashed to them. "Fuck. Get it off of her," Chuya shouted. "No." Dazai stared at the short countdown. "It's wide to blow up if we touch it." "No." Dazai stared at the short countdown. "It's wide to blow up if we take it off." Dazai-san, what's happening?" "Dazai-san, what's happening?" Dazai-san, what's happening?" Atsushi shouted. Dazai felt his heart rate pick up. "Atsushi, get out. Atsushi, get out the hotel. Wait by the car." But, Atsushi. "Dazai, I can't take it off." "Dazai, we can't take it off. There's no fucking trigger wire." Chuya called. "No, there's no fucking in that sentence." "Dazai, we can't take it off. There's no trigger wire." Chuya called. Fuck. Dazai hurried over, quickly searching the device. Fuck. The countdown ticked. 5. Dazai glanced over the assortment of wires, floating them in the around the device. 4. Come on, find it. 3. Dazai, Chia warned. 2. Fuck, fuck, Dazai shouted, Hayashi crying in his arms. 1. A sudden force shoved Dazai to the ground before a deafening explosion surrounded him. The building rattled the sound of wood splintering and glass shattering filled the air. He ducked his head, waiting for the burn of the heat. Only it didn't come. Dazai slowly opened his eyes. Akutagawa lay beside him, having carefully made sure to keep it from touching Dazai's skin. His ability surrounded them, the black fabric glowing red. His ability surrounded them, the black fabric glowing red. The Ravenet glanced around him before shifting to sand. He held out a hand, pulling Dazai upright. The building had collapsed. The brick crumbled and broken. The damage expanded out towards the other buildings surrounding them, also scorched up and The damage expanded outwards. The other buildings surrounding them also scorched and shattered. As I looked around, Hayashi-chan. There was nothing left of her. The explosion having left her small body. There was nothing left of her. The explosion having destroyed her small body. I failed her, Otosaku. Chuya floated in the air just above them, his ability having saved him from the debris. He slowly descended to the ground. 20-meter radius. Dazai looked at him. What? The explosion had around a 20-meter radius. He stared at him. He was trying to destroy Tokyo. A faint mumble sounded. Dazai glanced at his phone in his hand, the screen showing he was someone called Atsushi. He quickly put the phone to his ear. Atsushi, are you still there? There was a moment of quiet before Atsushi answered. Dazai-san, are you okay? He frowned. Yes, wait. Wait, Atsushi replied. His voice was oddly quiet and calm, though he was focused. Atsushi replied. His voice was oddly quiet and calm, as though he was focusing on something else. Atsushi-kun, what is it? He glanced around at Chuya and Akutagawa, the two watching him curiously. There's a high-pitched noise, Atsushi began. A high-pitched kind of ringing. It's been going on since we got here. He trailed off for a moment. It's like... Dazai heard Atsushi catch his breath. It's screaming. What? Dazai-san, the children are here. They're in the hotel. He broke off suddenly, and Dazai stared at the crumbled ground before him as the sound of a door crashing open filled his ear. Atsushi's panicked breathing sounded from the speaker. Atsushi's panicked breathing sounded before the speaker clicked on the line and went dead, the dial humming ominously. Dazai lifted his gaze, losing the phone to his ear. Chuya and Akutagawa stared at him. Atsushi. Okay, everyone, that was the next 3 chapters of You're Not Like Them, chapters 7, 8, and 9. Yep, 7, 8, 9, by Luffy Gear 5. I hope you really liked it. I left it off at a little cliffhanger. Maybe it's a bit longer than the last video. Don't know. But anyway, I'm going to go eat some dinner because it's 10 to 5 and I've only eaten ham. What else have I ate pasta at 4 in the morning. What else did I eat? Woke up, went there. Doesn't matter. I need to eat because I'm hungry. Anyway, so see you guys later. Make sure to take care of yourself and I'll see you guys later. Make sure to eat.